So I just finished recording a video talking about recovery times, and in that video I talked about intensity, exercise intensity. And so I wanted to explain why, if you're doing strength training, it is paramount to be training at a high enough level of intensity. It was crucial to be finding out what your optimal level or your optimal rest days, because it's going to be an easier way to gauge from session to session where your output is. But why would I want to work out at a full intensity? Isn't that dangerous, right? Well, the idea of danger is going to come into play on what exercises you're choosing and how you're going about choosing them. And that I can save for another day. Really, the video would be go slow, go controlled, make sure that you're setting up safety pins or using spotters or just using machines. So when you do that, when you go slow, when you don't change directions fast, you're going to be able to be safe because you're going to be able to set the weight down whenever you cannot finish a complete repetition. So why do I want to train at a high, super high intensity, a maximum intensity, maximum effort? Well, this comes to the whole reason why we're in the gym in the first place. If you're like most people, the reason why you're going to the gym is if you're lifting weights at the gym, not running on the treadmill. If you're lifting weights, you're there to work your muscles. You're there to increase your strength overall. So if I'm there to build muscle, build strength, maybe I'm there because of bone density, all right? That's going to be working my muscles pull on my bones, and that's going to provide the stimulus needed to keep my bone density high or to actually improve my bone density. Well, I'm working muscles. How do your muscles respond? They respond by need. What do I need to do in the moment? If all I need to do right now is stand up, the muscles are going to match the level of need to whatever it is that I'm doing. So I only need to stand up, I'm going to use these muscles, and that's what we're going to do. As the need goes up, if I start jogging in place, that's going to be different. If I start jumping, that's going to be different. So the level of intensity as it goes up, I'm going to have to pull in more muscles to be able to match that level of intensity. More intensity, more demand, more effort, more muscles. Our goal should be to work as many muscles as possible because we use all of our muscles when we're going around in our lives, whether we play sports or do this. If I want to maximize bone density, I want to pull on as many muscle, connections that the tendons are connecting, and I want to get that maximum stimulus for my body. So the reasons why we're at the gym are to work the muscles. How do we work the muscles? We put demand on them. And how do we put the maximum demand? We have to work at maximal intensity. So you want to think about the gym like a sprint. You can only keep your maximum speed in a sprint for a very short period of time. As soon as I increase the distance, I'm going to start pacing myself. I start pacing myself. If it goes longer, I start pacing. You can only keep your maximum intensity for so long. Why? Why can't I keep my maximum intensity for a very long period of time? Because the effort's so high and because I'm using so many muscles. And the specific types of muscles that we're using that fatigue fast are called fast twitch muscle fibers. They are fast fatiguing. A lot of people think that they're fast as in speed. Well, you use them when you move fast like a sprint. You do use them, but it's only because of the level of need, the effort. Because I'm putting out so much effort to move fast, my body has to pull in more muscle fibers, meaning I have to use all of those muscle fibers, including the fast twitch. The slow twitch are slow fatiguing. That means they recover very, very quickly in between movements. So when I walk, I'm using my slow twitch because I can do that forever. I like to, use this analogy. Okay, you just sprinted, okay? And I give you 1 second of rest in between. And I put a gun to your head and I say, sprint at that same level of intensity again. Do the exact same thing you just did. and you went all out, 100% intensity, no matter what the motivation was, you're going to die, you still wouldn't be able to because your muscles cannot recover fast enough. Now, I have you jog, all right, for the same distance, and I say, put a gun, I have you jog for a really long distance, okay? And you're even tired at the end of that. And I put a gun to your head and say, keep jogging. You're gonna be able to, at that same intensity that you just stopped with, even if it was a long distance, you're gonna be able to continue that because the level of intensity wasn't maximum, and you're gonna have recovery from some of those muscle fibers because they are not being called upon for that level of intensity. So when we're in the gym, we're trying to recreate a sprint with whatever muscle group that we're using, because that's the way that we're going to get into those fast twitch muscle fibers, which those are the ones that tend to be the bigger fibers that give us more of that muscle build, okay? So if we're trying to build muscle aesthetically, that's what we're after. We've got to get to those type 2 fibers, the fast twitch fibers, which will respond like that. But just in general, I want to work as many muscles as I can in my body. So if I go to the gym and I work out at an 80% intensity every single time I go, I'm missing out on 20% of the muscles that I could be using. And let's just use that as an analogy. It might not necessarily be a perfect ratio, but if I'm only using 80% of my muscle fibers because I'm at 80% intensity, I'm missing out on 20%. Now, we never get 100% of our muscle fibers. We always have some in reserve. But our goal when we're in the gym is to try to dip into as much of those reserves as possible. And this is where the big key comes, is that's when you get this systemic response from your body. When it's at a high enough intensity, like a sprint, your body goes, oh, that was significant. We need to respond to that, and we need to get better. So you have not only the muscular area where I damage that muscle tissue, but there is a systemic response that happens whenever we take something to that level of intensity. Dorian Yates talks about this when he starts training. Dorian Yates is a 6-7-time Mr. Olympia champion, and he says, when you're in the gym, you got to get nuts. And you got to trick your way into, when you want to stop, you got to trick yourself into trying to do another rep or two by saying things like, people are going to, if I don't do another repetition, people are going to kill my family and people are going to rape my girlfriend. And like you got to get so charged to do that because your body is not in a fight or flight situation. When you're in a fight or flight situation, a serious life or death situation, you're going to be able to go full intensity. It's going to be automatic. We don't have any of those situations anymore. You go to the gym, even when you get underneath a barbell, all right, and it's super heavy and it could kill you, we're still with our buddies, we're still there. There's girls in spandex, it's not life or death. So you got to trick yourself into getting that level of intensity. And you can only do that for so long. So that's why I prefer getting in, getting out. Don't spend an hour and a half in the gym. Get in, get as much intensity out of the exercises that you can, and then get out and recover. And again, the whole goal of being there is to work your muscles. So if you're leaving reps in reserve, you're missing out on muscle fibers, but you're missing out on really the most important ones, the ones that really give you that muscle size and are also there to give you more of that power output. At the end of the day, all muscles give you power output and all muscles are going to contribute to your size. But those fast twitch fibers are the ones that are only called upon if the intensity gets high enough. And what's interesting is those are the ones that most people are really looking for. They want to increase their size. They want to increase their strength. Your body doesn't want to go there. It's used to living. It's used to doing its daily activities. It's not in fight or flight situations. Why do I need to dip into these reserves when I'm not getting chased by a lion? Why do I need to act like I'm doing that? That's where you driving that intensity, and there is skill involved with that, to figure out how to get there. That is the whole reason why we're in the gym. And you're not going to turn into Mr. Olympia, especially if you're a woman thinking about this, like, Well, I don't want to build all that muscle. I don't, thank you, JD. This gives me an excuse not to work. No. You don't have testosterone. You're not on steroids. You're not going to be able to build muscle. What it's going to do is give you the results that you want. You want the muscle tone, right? You want the strength. You want the bone density. That's going to happen when you get the maximum stimulus. We're not training skills. This is another caveat. We're not training skills in the gym. That's a different thing. If I want to train my nervous system to be hand-eye coordination, throw, hit, do a specific stroke in the water, that is skill learning. And that you do not want to go to full intensity. You want to make sure that you have reps in reserve so that I can recreate the motion exactly the same every single time perfectly. As soon as I get fatigued, what happens? My form goes. I have to put more muscles in and more effort in, and that's going to change my mechanics. In the gym, the skill component of that is go full intensity without changing your form. That's the challenging part. Can I recreate rep 1 and rep 10 being the same, even though rep 10 is incredibly challenging? That's where a good trainer or discipline is going to come into making sure that you're not changing the exercise when you're trying to press just to get the weight up because you got to go full intensity. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Is doing it with the same form so that you're working the same muscles and fatiguing those muscles. That's the gym skill, if you're going to call it that. But really what we're going after is that muscle fatigue. That's how you're going to get that muscle effort. That's how you're going to get those fibers, all of the fibers, and especially the ones that you're really in the gym for. Then comes into recovery. Those are going to take some time to recover. Watch my other video on recovery. But at the end of the day, we're in the gym doing sprints. We're not working on skills. Once you've learned the skill of getting the high intensity, it's about taking a shotgun and blasting those muscles. How many can I get? How intense can I get? That's what we're after. I hope that helps. That's why you want to train at full intensity. You want to do it safely. I can make another video on that if that's something that you want to learn about. But really, at the end of the day, effort is the number one driver of how many muscles you're going to use, and especially those fast twitch muscle fibers, because they're based off of need, not speed. If you work at a high enough intensity and you are calling on all your muscles, you're going to call in for those reserves, and that's when you're going to get the response, if you're getting enough rest and recovery in between, to get the results that you want. That's it for today. Until next time, I'll see you then.